Welcome back to Several Weeks Late Media. Today I'm going to be starting a couple series, I think, that I'm going to be putting up on this channel. Uh, right now I'd like to start one that I call Alternative Heroes. And Alternative Heroes is essentially takes place in various extended universes in which I make up my own characters and kind of inject them into the storylines of those universes. And this leads me to one of my first thoughts in this, Anika Skywalker. For the record, it's Anakin's sister, not a female version of Anakin. I thought of her originally because I was wondering what happened to Anakin's father. And Anakin's father is never really addressed at all. They kind of mention him very shortly when when Anakin and her mother are talking to Kugan, but they never really say anything about him. And I was thinking that he died. So I came up with this story of why he died, which is their first child, Anika. And Anakin's mother did not want Anika to grow up as a slave, like she had. So what she did was she gave Anika to her father, to her husband, Anika's father, and told him to take her away, take her to a spaceport, and essentially smuggle her on somewhere so that she would get off Tatooine, get away from all the trouble of being a slave. Now, during this process, he encounters some sand people driving across the desert. They stop him, they shoot and kill him, but then they find Anika as a baby in the sea. And Anika is just sitting there. She's crying her eyes out because she's like less than a year old. And also she's kind of banged up because they stopped really suddenly when the Sand People showed up. So the Sand People, if you ever played Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, there's a mission in which you see that Sand People are actually fairly intelligent and fairly nice if they want to be. So Anika is picked up by the Sand People and actually raised as one of them. And she lives the next 12 years of her life with the Sand People until her 13th birthday. And on her 13th birthday, as a celebration, her friends took her outside to mess with banthas, actually. Now messing with banthas is practically illegal among the Sand People, but the kids like to do it anyway because it's fun. It's like cow tipping, except it actually happens. And Anika has no idea that she has force power. She has no idea why she has force power. She hasn't been trained in anything. And while they're out there, they unintentionally follow the bantha close to the lair of the Krayt Dragon. Now, if you don't know what the Krayt Dragon is, I don't blame you. It never showed up in the movies. It was very briefly mentioned. And it's shown up a couple times in the extended universe, but it's not very commonly thought of. So they accidentally follow the banthas to the lair near the lair of the crate dragon. And the crate dragon comes out because its favorite food is bantha. It causes a stampede of the bantha. They all start running away, and since they started running away, the crate dragon goes for Anika and her friends. They and Anika unintentionally uses the Force for the first time in her life, just to keep the crate dragon at bay for a few seconds. But a bantha runs by and hits her, and she falls over, gets caught in its hair, and gets dragged all the way to Mos Eisley. And she eventually falls out of the hair in the middle of the town, and everybody's looking at her like she's a tramp, like she doesn't belong with them, because she doesn't. She has no idea about anything in town or anything that regular people do. So she wanders around for a while because nobody really lets her do anything. Eventually she finds this man who runs a tech shop. Not the guy from no, not the guy from Phantom Menace. Definitely not the guy from Phantom Menace. They just put her to work immediately. She does go to work, though, for this man, and he actually teaches her basic in kind of payment for that. A few years later, he actually does start paying her as well. And eventually she starts doing deliveries for him all over Mos Eisley. And after a little while, she hears this story about. She starts hearing about her brother, Anakin, is working for Watto. At least I think his name is Watto. And is entering a pod race for his freedom. And so what she does is she goes to the pod race, goes to see Anakin, realizes that she can't actually see him. She can't actually go talk to him because he doesn't know he ever had a sister. And she kind of figured that. And she doesn't know she ever had a brother, but she wanted to go see the pod race anyway. And there was a bit of a Force family connection in there, kind of like Luke and Leia and Darth Vader. There was kind of a Force family connection in there, so she felt kind of a connection to Anakin, but didn't actually know that he was her brother. So she sat up in the stands with those weird binoculars that you always see in Star Wars, and she looked down at him and watched him do his race. And the entire time she was just watching him do his race, and she was really enjoying. But afterwards, she actually caught up with him while he was leaving, like right after he was leaving, kind of right after he was really disappointed that they weren't taking his mom with them. And this is the odd analogy I thought of. The galaxy is like a hut. It either kills you, uses you so it can kill you, or loves you. Those are the only options. And she tells Anakin this. And then she goes back to her deliveries. A few days later, the shopkeeper that she works for tells her that he owes payment to Jabba. And that she has to take his payment to Jabba on the speeder because there is a debt collector coming to kill him. And she has to give Jabba the debt before the debt collector arrives. So she rides off on her speeder, and she's like halfway to Jabba's palace when she sees the debt collector roll up on his speeder. And the debt collector is basically a mercenary. And he sees that she has the money to pay Jabba. He knows that if she can pay Jabba, Jabba's not paying him. So he starts attacking Anika. And they have this epic speeder battle in the middle of the desert. Eventually, Anika wins by simply outmaneuvering the mercenary. She's ridden speeder bikes a lot more. She does deliveries on speeder bikes, so she has a little more experience, even though she's a lot younger. She didn't have a gun, but as we've seen in Star Wars, Jedi are certainly capable of dodging bullets. And also driving incredibly well around bullets. Of course, like I said, she's obviously not a Jedi, but that's not the deal. So she gets to Jabba, and she gives him her boss's payment. And Jabba looks at her and he says, "How did you get around my debt collector?" And she explains that she's just really good at maneuvering around the area, and she's very good at mechanics, and she knows exactly where to damage his speeder bike. And she explains all this, and he says, "You know what? I think I could use you." Now, that was that analogy earlier. And she looks at him and says, "I need money. If you want to use me, I need a lot of money. Not just for me, but for my boss, too. This pays off his debt, but if you want to use me, you have to provide a little for me." And she says, "I wanted to be a smuggler. That's why I've been doing all this delivering. I want to deliver. I don't care what I'm delivering, but I want to leave this planet in order to do it." And Jabba looks at her and he says, "Well, of course you can do that. I'll even give you I'll get you on a smuggling ship tomorrow. And they will teach you how to run one. Under one condition. You are now also in debt to me." Now, if there's one thing that Han Solo has made clear to us, you do not want to be in debt to Jabba the Hutt. But she said yes. Because, like Anakin, that was her dream. To get off of Tatooine and see the rest of the universe. She had already been delivering, and in a way, she wanted to expand her delivering to the rest of the galaxy. Considering at this point she was practically running the old man's business. So the next day, she goes to see she goes to see the ship captain. Is told what is told that they will teach her how to fly and how to do everything she needs to do. And I'm actually going to leave. I think I'm going to make this story a couple parts because I feel like it's deserving of that. If anyone who wants to hear this story will hear this story on their own, or hear this story no matter how many parts I do it in. So that's the first episode of Alternative Heroes. Goodbye.